Hello, welcome back. I'm recording live again today. I'm uh I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a subject that I know a little bit about. Recent news story about a CIA man with 303 gold bars at his house. Sometimes the strangest stories have got to be the realest ones. You ever heard a story so crazy? It sounds like it came out of a spy thriller in Hollywood. You'd call it unrealistic, but it's real. A senior CIA officer with a top secret clearance, millions in gold bars, luxury watches, stashes of cash hidden around a Virginia home, and then the twist that becomes impossible. Federal investigators say the man may have lied about a huge part of his background, including that he was a Navy pilot. Now, folks, let me tell you something. Having worked in the intelligence agency myself, not the CIA, I worked for the NSA. But having worked in it myself, I can tell you that the background checks are intense. They went back 20 years on me, and I was 20 years old. They interviewed my kindergarten teacher. So I want you to think about that for a minute. They interviewed my kindergarten teacher, and this guy said he was a Navy pilot, and he wasn't. So hold on a minute. Because if you've ever served in the military, I have, worked around clearances, or even held a government job requiring a background check, your brain immediately starts asking questions, big questions. Because it isn't some random guy pretending to be a Navy SEAL on Facebook. It's not some guy that's saying, I was a sniper. That's the biggest thing on Facebook is everybody was a sniper. It wasn't some internet scammer wearing fake medals at a gas station, allegedly some senior intelligence officer. And according to reports, got a phone call right in the middle of a live recording. Imagine that. According to reports, he made it all the way to one of the most secretive organizations on earth. How? That's tonight's story. According to federal court documents, FBI agents searched the Virginia home of former CIA officer David Rush. What they found sounds more like a spy novel. It's less like a federal employee and more like the villain hideout in a spy movie. 300 gold bars, not coins, not jewelry, gold bars. The kind you see in movies stacked inside Swiss vaults. Authorities estimate the value at over $40 million. Then investigators reportedly found about $2 million in cash, luxury watches, Rolexes, high-end valuables. The story immediately exploded online, but some people started asking the same question. How does somebody working for the government end up with that much gold hidden in their house? And then the next part hits. Investigators say some of the gold had allegedly been requisitioned for work related purposes before disappearing. Full stop. Because everybody that's ever worked around government property, especially sensitive government property, especially very valuable government property, knows there are forms for everything. You don't just accidentally lose millions in gold bars. You can lose your mind trying to sign out a folding chair from supply. Took me 4 hours, 4 hours to buy a quart of oil one time to put in my truck, my work truck. But somehow, according to the allegations, massive quantities of precious metals disappeared. And that's where the story stops sounding like an ordinary corruption and starts sounding more like an intelligence thriller. The gold bars aren't even the craziest part. The craziest part might be the resume. According to reports, federal investigators allege David Rush fabricated the majority of the portion of his background to get hired in the first place. That includes allegedly claiming he was a Navy pilot, he attended elite military schools, and had educational credentials investigators later questioned. Now, let me explain why this causes military veterans and people that have ever worked in the industry to stare at the wall in confusion. Military aviation leads a paper trail, a gigantic one. Flight records, physicals, training schools, air wings, assignments, evaluations, orders, and medical clearances. You don't just wake up one day and decide to become a Navy pilot. That's one of the hardest things on earth to fake. And for those of us that understand clearances, that's where the story really gets weird, real weird. Because top secret clearance investigations normally dig into everything: your schools, your jobs, your military service, your finances, and your background. People joking about investigators talking to your third grade lunch lady. I'm not going to joke about it. They talked to my elementary school teachers when they did my background investigation. And honestly, it seems true. So the internet's now talking. How'd this happen? Theories. Before we go full conspiracy theory mode, let's stay grounded because there's a few possibilities here. Possibility one: the allegations are exactly what prosecutors say. And if that's true, this may represent one of the biggest vetting failures imaginable. And possibility two: some of the claims may have been partially true, then heavily exaggerated. That happens a lot more than people realize. Support personnel become operators. Aviation support become a pilot. Reserve duty becomes combat hero. And sometimes resume inflation grows for years until nobody questions it anymore. And then there's possibility three, and that's the one that the internet really loves. People immediately saying, maybe his records were classified. Now listen carefully. Classified operations exist. Compartmented programs exist. But generally speaking, classified work does not erase the fact that you served. It doesn't magically create pilot wings where none existed. And that's why the case is fascinating, because either the allegations are overstated or the system failed in a spectacular way. And honestly, both possibilities are terrifying. The bigger question, and it has nothing to do with the gold bars, maybe the real lesson, and this is much of modern society. People assume titles equal competence, badges equal honesty, and agencies equal perfection. But institutions are still made of human beings. Human beings lie, exaggerate, hide things, and manipulate systems. Sometimes for money, sometimes for ego, and sometimes because once a lie starts, they can't stop. See, if you tell the truth, you don't ever have to remember what you said. But if you tell a lie, you got to remember it every day. And that's why these stories hit people so hard, because it reminds us that behind every giant institution, there are only still a few flawed humans, even in the intelligence world. Now, remember, these allegations matter, court cases matter, evidence matters, due process matters. But if even half of this story turns out to be true, Hollywood's probably already writing the screenplay. A fake Navy pilot, gold bars, cash, luxury watches, and the CIA. There couldn't be a better movie plot if you tried. Maybe the strangest part of all is that the older I get, the less surprising these stories become. I'm Todd Edwards. This is Tick Bite NC. And around here, we pay attention to the stories that make everyone stop and say, hell, wait a minute. And for the record, I was an intelligence professional. I served at the National Security Agency. I was with U.S. Army Intelligence. And I have worked in other intelligence positions since then. So I know a little bit about the subject that I'm talking about today. I'm not going to inflate my resume, but I will say that I'm blown away. How do you get $40 million in gold bars from the US government and not account for it. It's unreal. So I'm going to end this one here. You guys follow me. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, TickBite NC, all places. I'll see you there. Come see me. I'll have a next story in a few minutes.